And now, our feature presentation.
The best
in the world
is right here, right now.
Whether you like it or don't like it, pal, learn to love it.
Ladies and gentlemen,
welcome. All right, listen up.
Now it's our time to step forward. It's time to bring the NWA back into the spotlight.
I was thinking that it might be a good idea if you and I formed an alliance.
Let's get ready to rumble!
Attention, everyone.
Welcome to the greatest wrestling program in the world.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? Stop what you're doing and listen.
It's the Alliance Guys podcast with your hosts Kevin Frazier, DKM, and JCal.
You know, there's so much news going on in wrestling today. I mean, you talk about our friends over at the United Wrestling Network are set to crown their world champion on September 1st in Atlanta. And then we're, you know, the news breaks today. The NWA has like 5 more entrants into the EMPOWERRR. Oh, hey, we're live. We are live here at the Alliance Guys podcast, a presentation of Alliance-Wrestling.com, your number one source for news and information for the National Wrestling Alliance. Hey guys, sorry to keep you waiting today. Some tech issues. As you can see, our boy, the modern day hero, is driving away, putting his own life at peril to entertain you, to talk NWA with you. And of course, DKM's there, and he's just in a grumpy mood. Welcome, guys.
What's happening? And yeah, I wouldn't miss it for the world, or I mean, maybe for COVID, but you know, glad to be here. You know, I look forward to hearing what you guys think about the show today, given the kind of the open format that we have. And my biggest invite is for, you know, hey guys, you know, those following along, just, you know, please put your 2 cents in there. If there's ever a time that we want to talk about what you want to talk about, I would say tonight's that night.
And DK, how are you, my friend?
Tired, cranky, ready to slap people.
Which means
just another day.
He's going to be a cantankerous old man. That brought a smile to your face, surprisingly.
Yet again.
And of course, I'm JCal, and this is the.
I mean, what else is new?
That's fair. So, hey guys, first let's talk about some of the big news that's out of the NWA today. I mean, there's a couple of names that have been announced over the last few days, but it looks like we finally have all 10 participants in the NWA Women's Invitational Cup that will be taking place on August the 28th, next Saturday, which will feature the likes of Kiera Hogan. Holy crap, they landed Kiera Hogan. We thought it was a big deal when they got Chelsea Green, but now they've added Kiera Hogan to the list of names like Thunder Kitty, Masha Slamovich, Genocide with Taryn Terrell, Bianca Corelli, who is the daughter of Santino Morelli, Debbie Malenko, my choice, Lady Frost, Tootie Lynn Ramsey, and Jamie Senegal. So they have 10 women in this battle royal. I think they did a pretty good job of rounding it out. You've got some very well-known wrestlers. You've got some a pioneer, a legend, if you will. You've got 2 ladies who are, you know, prime time, top of the talent free agents. Not free agents, but you know, women who could pretty much pick and choose where they go, and they're choosing the NWA. Then you've got a lot of up-and-coming talent and a lot of seasoned veterans who have been around for a while and is getting an opportunity to shine. Kevin, first I want to ask you, what are your thoughts on the 10 women for the Invitational Battle Royal?
I mean, hats off to the NWA, because it sounds like they put in a lot of work to get a lot of talent on this show, names we know and names we don't know, or names we haven't heard in a while. And that's just, honestly, that's really exciting to me, because to me, effort is a big thing I'm looking for from the NWA, and to me, this shows that. And I also think it's really interesting, because I think this might be a kind of an insight to the influence that Mickie James actually does carry. and how much I think it matters that she is endorsing this, and it just seems like it started out as kind of one of those things to me, like I just kind of thought, almost maybe a novelty, a way to get people to watch, maybe a way to be relevant, which none of that's wrong. I'm not being critical of that. I just felt like that it felt a little publicity stunt-ish. But now it's starting to shape up to be like a legitimately really good wrestling show. And I'm really excited about it because, as you guys know, I believe that my old trainer Jazz is even on staff with the booking committee or something of the creative group with the NWA. And, I would like to give her a little credit just because I know how good she is for possibly having a little bit something to do with this. But, I'm just a big fan of women's wrestling, always have been. And I have the utmost respect for the direction that women's wrestling has taken over the last, really, gosh, man, we're getting close to 10 years. I mean, it's been a while. And it's just been refreshing to see because I believe that women are fantastic athletes. And I believe that, their role or their place in professional wrestling should be at the same level as the men because, again, having wrestled with someone like Jazz the early part of my career, I mean, she's the best wrestler, male or female, I've ever been in the ring with.
Wow. And
considering that I wrestled 99% of my matches were against men, she's better than anybody I've ever wrestled. I mean, in some of the stuff I'll talk about tonight about, work rate or look and just the things that make you a great wrestler. Jazz is the best worker I've ever worked with, and she's the best athlete I've ever been around. And I've been around pro athletes in the three major sports growing up in school, and she's the best athlete I've ever seen, and that's saying something considering Rodney Mack was in the ring with us all the time, and he's a phenomenal athlete in his own respect. So I'm just really pumped up about it. I know it's a long way around to say that, but just to say that, I have a lot of respect for women's wrestling just doesn't do it justice. Just telling you a little bit about where I come from and why I believe that I think adds a little bit of meat to my opinion. But that's what I think. I'm excited. I'm pumped.
DK, real quick, do you want to express your thoughts on the roundabout of the 10 women?
We can have a Hogan that wins an NWA title.
Didn't even think about that. Interesting.
I think it's a good mix. I mean, I can't say there's anybody I'm overly excited about, but there's nobody that I'm going, oh God, no. So, I think they put together a good mix in there, veterans, new people. Lynn needs to go back to whatever the other name that she was using, and
Senshi
we'll all be good.
Dragon.
That's it. Much better name.
And then they also added some names to the tag team tournament. So we knew we had Sahara 7 with Renee Michelle. Of course, Marty Bell and Allison Kay were the first team announced, Team Hex. Then you've got Red Velvet from AEW and Killian King. And now they announced the Freebabes, a pun off of the old Freebird family, where you have Miranda Gordy, daughter of Terry Bam Bam Gordy, Holly Hood Haley J, who is currently the OVW Women's Champion. She's a 2-time champion. And then the daughter of Jimmy Wang Yang, and that's Jazzy Wang Yang. Easy for me to say. So we have some tag teams now. So we're starting to see something come. What do you guys think about that? DK, you start off. What do you think about the Freebabes? What do you think about the tag teams?
I guess even Holly Hood J. Haley Hubot is also a second generation wrestler. I guess according to a friend of ours, her mother was a Canadian female wrestler. Mother better be a female wrestler. And so, I mean, I think they're an interesting thing. Of course, I'm a Miranda Gordy fan. Saw her the first time she, actually participated in a pro wrestling event as talent up in Sherman, Texas. And so I'm happy. I mean, really, when I look at all 4 teams, that's the team I want to win, too. I mean, just honestly looking at them, I like them. I think they're kind of new, young, fresh. I think it looks like they'll probably use that Freebird rule where any 2 of the 3 can defend the titles. So, I mean, I'd kind of like to see them win. Kevin?
There you go, yeah.
So, I mean, I've already expressed my sentiments really just about the talent on the show and the show overall. As far as the tag team, I mean, there's just a lot of talent in all these teams, and I'm kind of leaning towards Marty Bell and Allison Kay just because, to me, they are kind of NWA staples. And so I guess maybe I'm just sentimental towards that. But I'm just excited to see all these teams go at it, to see what kind of wrestling we can see amongst them with all the talent that's out there. So
Ron Gibson wants to point out that Hollywood is sassy as hell, so she's a lot of fun. I do find myself enjoying the sass. The other...
Well, you got daughters, so you better learn to appreciate it.
You don't have to tell me, sir. By the way, happy birthday to Lily Kaylee, who is absolutely not watching this, but my oldest turned 17 years old today. And
man, you're getting old.
I feel as old as DK looks right now, so...
Woo!
That's pretty old.
Old.
I love it, Kevin. Woo! And then up next is they also signed Diamante to the pay-per-view, and I don't know what role or capacity she's going to be in. It sounds like they're going to find an opponent from her, but again, another standout from AEW. Looks like, when we talked about the show initially, we thought, well, they're bringing in legit Layla, so there's some AEW. They're bringing in Chelsea Green, that's kind of got that Ring of Honor, Impact, working togetherness. But, with more talents from Impact, more talents from AEW, it just really feels like they are kicking that forbidden door open, and we're really getting a mix of just solid women talent. So I really think that's pretty cool.
And there's under 100 tickets left.
Yeah. That's a great
point. There's only around 70 or something like that.
But I like to think that you're seeing the NWA actually trending towards what I would call the modern trend of companies working together for the betterment of the talent and for the betterment of the fans. And I give them hats off to that, because I really believe that's the best way to present an alternate product to WWE, is to make sure you've got many good wrestlers wrestling each other on the cards that are not WWE cards. And I think that's really a cool thing to do, or a cool thing to see, that NWA is getting in on that they're not threatened by letting other people come in and be a part of their show, because as we know, that's just going to make the talent on the show better and lend more credibility to the brand itself.
I would also like to say, I know that you're a big fan of NXT, Kevin. I think DK even watches it from time to time. And with all the shakeup that you're hearing there at NXT, I mean, they're doing a takeover from the training center, the performance center. Things are changing, and they're rapidly changing on this platform for wrestling. And we know that, at least in my own backyard, we had NXT used to come out to Riverside, California twice a year, before the pandemic started, for these takeover events or just live events. And, in Riverside, we're all about seeing Candice LeRae live, because she's a native. She's from Riverside. It's her own backyard. So when they came out here, it was a big deal. And I will tell you this, with all the changes that seem to be happening with the NXT brand, New Japan Strong just snuck in and took that spot in Riverside. Now, that's not to say that NXT won't be back, but they quickly got that spot filled. In November 15th, New Japan Strong is going to be wrestling in my backyard in Riverside, and they're not just a TV program anymore. They're touring in the United States. They were at the LA Coliseum wrestling behind the big Olympic torch from 1984. They're going to be out in DK's neck of the woods in Dallas, Fort Worth. I mean, they are legitimately touring, and now you kind of have this fourth or fifth or I don't even know, sixth brand that, again, is taking part of this talent sharing. So there's stars from the NWA, like Jordan Clearwater's appearing on there. You've got guys like John Moxley from AEW. And then, legitimate champions in New Japan Pro Wrestling. You got Jay Lethal wrestling there. And then you've got these guys who are also like in Impact and the NWA. And there's just this big amalgamation of talent. And this talent resource, this pool, is being shared by multiple wrestling promotions, and I think it's really changing the landscape of pro wrestling.
And I think it lends to the popularity of wrestling. I mean, it's hard to recognize an era when you're in the middle of it, but I don't know if in my lifetime I can say wrestling has been more popular or accepted as it is right now. I mean, in every genre, at every level, from deathmatch wrestling all the way up to, cartoon WWE type wrestling. I mean, wrestling. I don't think wrestling's ever been as popular. And now that people are starting to attend shows, I mean, you're seeing wrestling companies besides WWE selling out arenas and drawing big houses, and I just think it's great. I mean, it's just awesome.
So there was one more bit of wrestling news, and I'm sure a lot of you have already heard about it, but we'll go ahead and start talking about it, that the NWA is bringing back the Nature Boy, woo, Ric Flair. And Ric Flair will be at the NWA's 73rd anniversary. Now, this is the first time in over a decade that the real world's champion, I guess he's not the real world champion, but the 16-time world's heavyweight champion will be joining the NWA to be part of the press, to be part of the whole experience there at the 73rd in St. Louis. And, I mean, especially how he was trending on Twitter this week. I think it's pretty cool to see that the Nature Boy is coming back. Now, I am going to say this. I think it's cool for the NWA, and I think it's cool for the fans that will be there. But I don't want to pretend like this is the first time that the Nature Boy has been a part of the post. Doty says 18 times. Okay, thanks for the update, Doty. I don't want them to play this like he's the first time he's done something with the NWA since the Crockett days, because we know that he was there presenting the championship title to both Brent Albright and Scrap Iron Adam Pearce back in your guys' neck of the wood, back in the good state of Texas, the People's Republic of Texas, excuse me. And
yes.
I know that was over a decade ago, but I don't want people to forget about that, because as cool as this is, I think the moment you start forgetting about history and you stop recognizing the people that paved the pathway to get to where you're at today, I think that's when wrestling history in itself denigrates. And I think you shouldn't forget about that stuff. So, before Billy Corgan brought Ric Flair to the NWA, David Marquez did it about a decade earlier. And it was shortly after Ric Flair had left the WWE, after he retired, and then didn't really retire. DK, what are your thoughts on Ric Flair coming to the National Wrestling Alliance?
Well, I mean, if we're completely honest, he's coming to an event.
Sure.
And who wouldn't want one of your most legendary champions as you're putting on a show in one of the most legendary places? And he didn't win the title there, but he did win the title in St. Louis, one of them. I think his fourth reign, when he beat Dusty Rhodes for the second time. So, I mean, it's a big deal, but let's not get carried away by it.
Kev?
Well, I taking nothing away from the NWA a decade ago, But just like we got through talking about a few minutes ago, about how the landscape of wrestling has changed so dramatically, so drastically, that, I mean, independent wrestling back then, you know, was a completely different animal than it is now, because, you know, not many independent wrestling shows drew the kind of crowds that some of these shows are drawing now. And I think that the time that we're in and the era that what's happening, I think it's a good move, because I think it just is one of those things that it's a face that is synonymous with the NWA and being Ric Flair. And I think the timing of it is appropriate, just because it's a historical event. It's the 73rd anniversary. And I really feel like the NWA is really pushing hard to put their best foot forward in these two events. And my hope is that it will catapult the brand and the television show to kind of the next level, which I think we all want to see. And I just think it's probably just part of that. And it's a way that not only can they draw attention, because big names draw attention, but I also think it's good for the brand, because Ric Flair is synonymous with the NWA. And so I like it. Like you guys said, I don't think it's like a you know, as a huge deal, but I think it just kind of goes along with what we've been talking about. This, or what I've been kind of saying, is that the NWA is really trying to up their game in the talent that they have, you know, in the ring and backstage.
Yeah, I mean, look, I get that too, but I just want to point out too that the match between Pierce and Albright was a bull rope match, and I'm just trying to remember the venue it was. It was in Robstown, Texas, and I'm pulling it up right here, so I'm stalling a little bit. But yeah, I mean, look, it's a cool thing, but just kind of echoing what I already said, and not to disagree with you, but it's just, let's let this be what it is. Let's not say it's the first time. Let's not forget history. Let's not rewrite history. But let's say this is a pretty cool thing that that it's happening. And and of course it's happening at the Chase. They keep saying that's where it all started. We know it's not where it all started, but we know that there's certainly a ton of history there, and there's a ton of positive memories for NWA fans. So I think it's very cool that it's happening.
I feel like you agreed with me just now, actually.
Well, I don't
feel like we agreed.
No, I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying, I'm seeing a lot of people who are popping and be like, oh my God, this is the most amazing thing ever. And it's cool. It is very cool. Yeah. But I don't want people to forget about the history. And I get it. There's a lot of people who weren't watching the NWA 10 years ago. But, I mean, that event took place in Corpus Christi at an NWA Wrestling Showcase TV taping at the Robstown Fairgrounds. And I don't have the video handy, but if you go watch that video, it's not like 100 people there. I mean, there's a couple hundred people there. Maybe not 800, maybe not 700, but I would say imagine 350, 400 people could easily be there. And I could be wrong too. I just don't want people to say, oh, look at what Billy Corgan did. Look how great he is, because it's happened before. And I like it when people from the past get credit for doing things.
Well, has anyone said that? I mean,
no.
I mean, honestly, didn't know the last time Ric Flair had done anything with or for the NWA. I mean, I remember when he was inducted into the Hall of Fame, he couldn't make it.
Yeah, that was at the 60th anniversary show, and they weren't able to get him there in the building, and then they presented him with the award at that Showcase TV taping at the fairgrounds, and that was October 4th, 2008. So, right. 13 years
ago. I mean, here's the truth. It's been, that was 8, so 13 years.
Right.
So it's been 13 years, and it's Ric Flair, and it's St. Louis, so it's a big deal. And no, it's not the first time he's had anything to do with the end. And let's be honest, again, this is why I say let's not get out of hand. He's coming back because Billy Corgan was willing to spend the money for him to come in, and he was just in AAA to support his daughter's fiance, future son-in-law, I guess.
Chopping Kenny Omega, let's not forget.
Yeah. And Kenny should learn how to sell. But anyway, that being said, he's going to be everywhere for a while.
Sure.
Because he's a legend and people will pay to do it, and then he'll kind of fade for a while because, once you're everywhere, then who cares?
Right.
Even if you're a legend. So, but, this is the right time and the right place to bring him in. And so it was a good move on their part. So good job, Billy.
Yeah.
Good job, Billy, for also acquiring the original Burke.
Oh, right. We didn't even talk about that in the news, and I think that might be just as cool as Ric Flair showing up in the NWA.
I think it's more cool.
Acquiring that bit of history, and that's one thing Billy says a lot, that they are the stewards of the history of the National Wrestling Alliance. And you could take that with a grain of salt and be like, yeah, whatever, Billy, you're just trying to sell tickets. But at the end of the day, that's a piece of history that could have easily gone by the wayside. And, Mildred Burke never really got the credit she deserved alive. Hell, she didn't even get the credit she deserved when she passed. It's only as of recently that fans are really starting to acknowledge who she was and what she did. I mean, they never even put her in the NWA Hall of Fame during the Trobich era or during the Tharp era of the NWA. So I feel that it's really cool that the Corgan era will be known as the era that brought recognition to Mildred Burke, and I think that's really important.
Well, let's be honest, Hall of Fames are political more than they are recognizing greatness or whatever. But yeah, I mean, getting that is a cool bit of history. And like I said, people don't realize that Burke was main eventing in places as champion. And she drew big especially in Mid-America, in Tennessee and stuff like that. So, and this is something that in the Moolah era, wasn't as common. And by the way, for the record, Burke and her husband were pretty much the same as Moolah was. They controlled the business. They controlled the women wrestlers. They trained them. They booked them. They took their fee for it. So, but when they split and she finally got out of the business and everything like that, she laid low. Moolah continued to do things for years. She was champion, for 20 years or something with some small interruptions. And she stuck around for a long time and, kind of Ricky Morton the title and stuff.
Hey, coin the term. She Ricky Morton that thing.
Oh, jeez.
Although she was first.
Dadgummit.
Although she was first.
Golly.
Wow.
And I'm glad you left. I'm glad you left Robert Gibson out of it because I like Robert Gibson.
I did it just for you, Kevin. Just for you. And so anyway, Moolah was part of the WrestleManias and Big Time and everything, and so people knew her but didn't realize that Burke was actually a far more talented wrestler, and B was a big draw during her time.
Yeah. Well, I know she had wrestled matches out here in L.A., and there was a point in time where they didn't even allow women's matches out here.
Guys, I might get some spotty.
That she was one of the few women competitors that were able to break through.
Guys, I might get spotty right through here.
Okay.
Yeah, you're a little spotty, Kevin. We'll forgive you this once.
Yeah, give me a minute. Give me about 10 minutes, and I'll be back to normal.
How many minutes?
What?
Go ahead.
You'll never be normal, Kevin.
Give me a few. I'm in that little era where my reception and stuff isn't quite so good, so it'll get really good here shortly.
So, hey, if you guys, while Kevin's spotty, let's talk real quick about a few other things. First, I was able to interview United Wrestling Network, probably their most dominant female, and that would be Ruby Reyes. We spoke on Tuesday. The video is actually up here on twitch.tv, but if you prefer to listen, it's also available on all podcasting platforms, including Amazon, Spotify, and Google, Apple. So if you want to check that out, I would have greatly appreciate it. It was a very fun conversation, and she's one of my favorite people in the business, so it was really cool talking to her. Also, if you guys haven't done so yet, you could get this really sweet Alliance Raglan t-shirt. Raglan basically means just baseball sleeves, and I dig it. The fellas dig it. We're going to get some shirts made up soon for us, but if you want to get yours, it's available in our shop on the merch, and it's only $24, a long sleeve tee. I think if as we get closer to the cold season, as fall's coming around the corner and winter will be here before you know it, it'll be a nice shirt to represent the Alliance podcast, and it's got a pretty dope logo designed by a buddy of ours, and I like it. So, Kevin, are you in a better area now? Because you look better.
Actually, I'm in the worst part of it, so.
The answer's
if
no.
I pop in and pop out, it shouldn't be too long.
We're gonna get back to more NWA.
No, I'm almost there though.
We're gonna talk a little bit more about NWA in a minute, but I did want to talk about this big card that's coming to Atlanta on September the 1st. The United Wrestling Network invades the center stage in Atlanta to present the Championship Wrestling from Atlanta. They're going to be crowning their world champion. We spent a lot of time talking about Chris Dickinson and talking about Michael Bennett from the Primetime Live series, about that championship, that tournament, and it's finally going to come to fruition almost a year after it was announced, and it's going to be at the center stage in Atlanta. DK, what are your thoughts on this? I know you've been that guy that has said, just crown the champion, it's finally going to happen.
Yeah, that's basically my thoughts on it, so I am well about time. Yeah, crown the freaking champions. If they got the two guys that made the finals from a year ago, great.
They do. It will be Dickinson. It will be Mike Bennett. They just announced it today. That was late breaking news. Of course, that goes along with the fact that they'll have the bodega there in Atlanta. Heather Monroe will be there. Uptown Andy Brown, as well as some a lot of local Georgia talent. But then guys like Logan Creed, who was Mads Kruger in MLW, The Awakening, formerly known as The Ascension in the WWE. They even have Aiden English going under his real name. I can't remember what it is off the top of my head, but he will also be a part of these tapings, as well as the old NWA television champion, former TV champion Zicky Dice. And they're really starting to round out a decent, I would say better than decent, a really good roster in Atlanta. And I'm hearing it's going to air on Peachtree TV, which is supposed to be available in Canada and many markets. And I know that doesn't help you, DK, but do you have interest in this at all? Are you excited about this?
No. I mean, I only got so much time in my life to devote to wrestling.
Sure.
And I have something coming up that we'll probably talk about on a future episode that will take more of my time where wrestling's involved. And it's just, you know, I'm glad they're crowning champion. I'm glad finally. How many years has it been, Jay?
So they left the brand in 2012, right? That's when Championship Wrestling from Hollywood and the NWA parted ways. And basically ever since then they've been trying to figure out a way to crown a new champion. And that's not hyperbole, and that's not trying to say anything bad about Hollywood or those who were there, but it seemed like one hiccup after the other prevented them from finally crowning that champion, and it looks like they're about to do it in September. I will be there. I will be in Atlanta for that show, so you'll see a lot of cool photos and maybe some behind-the-scenes footage from your boy J Cal. But I think Kevin's in his house now, so I think we can start,
yeah, I'm good.
We could start talking more about this NWA, talking about the NWA Power roster, and it was something.
Well, can I comment real quick though about what you're talking about?
Brother,
for $20.
Brother, jump in.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So, in Atlanta, where's the NWA's? Where's their TV studio?
At the Georgia Public Broadcasting Studio in Atlanta.
And where is it at again? In Atlanta.
See.
And they're crowning and then now United Wrestling Network is crowning their world champion in Atlanta.
Yes.
I mean, it's crazy because there's how many cities in the United States that they probably could have done this at?
For sure.
I don't know. There's something about this that sounds a little bit. I don't. On purpose, maybe. So the best way I can say it by being clear. I saw it in my feed. I guess earlier this week, and I was like, wow, that's ironic, but maybe not. So it feels very on purpose to me. So I kind of was a little bit of a head scratcher. I am a little bit. I mean, I'm always excited to see Dave do well. You know, it just I guess my concern or what I don't want is for the NWA for it to be a spite against maybe the NWA. I guess would be my best way to say it, because I just don't think those are good motives. Well, if Atlanta's the only place they could get a place, then that's completely understandable. It just kind of seems a little ironic.
Well, I can't speak to this, and I know we want to do some more NWA talk, but I will speak from David Marquez's perspective because I have talked to them about this at length. Now, remember, Billy Corgan and Dave Lagana came to Dave Marquez to talk about the NWA back in 2017. Now, at that time, Dave Marquez was already putting Championship Wrestling from Hollywood in many, many different markets via TV. It was on, locally here it's on KDOC television, but in other markets it's been on CW. They were on the CW, the old CW affiliate across many states and different areas. And the plan initially was to do another Championship Wrestling from Hollywood that would land on Peachtree TV, but they were going to do something very local to the Atlanta market. Lou Seals, the person who was responsible for connecting the NWA with the Georgia Public Broadcasting Studios, Lou Seals works for Tough TV and has had a relationship with Dave Marquez for quite some time, because Championship Wrestling from Hollywood at different various points in history has appeared on Tough TV. And they were going to go into business together, I believe, in Atlanta, long before Lagana or Corgan brought up the idea to purchase the NWA. So when the television came, Marquez knew a guy who had a spot all ready to go and kind of gave that to the NWA because he thought that he was going to be part of the long-term process there. When that did not continue, he looked at that Atlanta market, and especially the Peachtree TV, which again has its channels all over, not just that's the original TBS. the original WTBS, that the Superstation that featured the original NWA programming. So it was something that he wanted to do, is to be on that channel. And of course, that channel still broadcasts all over the United States and North America and Canada. So it was an opportunity for him to put out a product that's more global than just Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. So this has been in the works for a while. But yeah, I mean, there might be some spite too. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. You can't deny it.
It wouldn't surprise me at all. It wouldn't surprise me at all.
But
either way, well, moving along, I guess.
Right along.
Ultimately, 2 ROH guys are going to fight for the United Wrestling Network world title.
That forbidden door, baby. They kicked it open. You know, it's not the first time that Ring of Honor wrestlers have competed for a championship outside Ring of Honor. I mean, do you remember Brent Albright wrestling against Scrap Iron Adam Pearce at the, what was it? The, oh God, it's that famous venue in New York. I can't remember what it's called.
Are you talking about the one that the ECW used to run at?
Yeah, in New York.
Yeah, I don't know the name of it, but I know what you're talking about.
Anyways, yeah, so it's not
no,
like...
I mean, there was a deal in place, right? You know, then between ROH and the NWA. ROH basically agreed to feature the NWA title as long as they got the 2 title changes, which they did, and then the relationship ended.
Hammerstein Ballroom.
And everything. Look, mixing of under talent, I don't really have a problem with. When you start getting to champions, that's a little bit different. I mean, like people have talked about, you know, what are their names? The Revival in WWE. FTR. FTR now, whatever, and then winning the NWA titles. And wouldn't it be great if the NWA titles showed up on Impact and stuff like that? Well, right now, or not on Impact, on AEW, but right now, AEW has their own tag team titles. They have the Impact Tag Team Champions featured things, and then you put the NWA Tag Team Championship on there. Well, I mean, now you got 3 world titles there in one promotion, only one of which is going to be the featured title of the promotion, and it devalues all of them. Because, I mean, look at WWE. They got double champions for everything but, or triple champions, if you want to count NXT, for everything but the women's tag team, and then they have doubles.
Yeah.
And, you know, there comes, look, you want to move contenders around and bring them in for, you know, pay-per-views or big events, or, you know, EMPOWERRR, which is a big thing, and if you're lucky, it'll be done annually. That's one thing. But when you're just talking about in general, you need your champions to be your champions, defending their titles in your area, and then moving on. I like if somebody wants to bring in, you know, I can't think of somebody, but Flying Brian, you know, he got a title shot at Pierce on a indie show. Oh, I mean, if there was something where you know, okay, we'll bring in Flying Brian for a title shot, you know, fine, on an NWA show, you know, but, you know, ultimately you also want your title defenses to be as equal or whatever. I made the comment about Dustin Rhodes, where somebody on Twitter got the idea that Dustin Rhodes should win the NWA World Heavyweight Championship. I go, no, he shouldn't. Oh, he's great. He's also 50-something. Oh, but he's awesome. He can outwork out, you know, yeah, well, so can Ricky Morton. You know, outwork? Sure. Yeah, but, I mean, I don't think Ricky Morton should be in there, but, you know, truth is, he goes back and I've seen a lot of the indie talent. He probably can outwork him.
Jeff Jarrett's 54. Just saying.
Yeah. But my response to it was, if you AEW fans think that Dustin should be a world champion, then say he should be the AEW world champion.
Touche.
You're not saying that.
No.
You're saying, if we're going to cross with the NWA, then we need to put one of our guys who we would never put our world title on, and put it on the NWA, put the NWA belts on. Well, hell no.
Hey, would it make a difference if they were saying Miro? If they were saying the TNT champion, would you feel differently if they were saying that? Just out of curiosity.
Put the title on him?
Yeah.
At this point, yes.
It would be different.
It would be a title match, sure. Put the NWA title on your secondary champion? No. If Miro was in the middle of a feud with Kenny Omega for the AEW World Championship, and it's like, okay, we're going to bring him in to face the NWA World Champion, then yeah, because now here's a guy that could be winning the AEW title, or at least they're presenting as somebody who could be world champion. And so now we're going to put him on, put the NWA world title on him. But again, it would probably be a hot shot.
Yeah.
Which I'm not the biggest favor of. And as I have pointed out, will it bring some new fans? Sure. Will other fans leave? Maybe. And so when the dust settles 6 months down the road, are you really in a better place? Probably not.
I would just want to point out, now that I can get back into the chat room, that Jason Newsom said, Kevin, I watched your match against Bryan Danielson the other day. Excellent. Just throwing it out there.
Hey, we never once said you weren't a great wrestler. I think part of the reason why you get so much credibility on this podcast is the fact of the matter that you're a very exceptional wrestler. That DK told us all, you need to check out this guy Kevin. This guy Kevin can go, and based on his recommendation alone is what brought you to this whole party. Based on what DK said, that's how you got here, man.
Well, it was nice to know that. Yeah, no, it was nice to know. I mean, it's kind of funny, nice to know that every now and then somebody sees an old Kevin match.
Watch this one from what was it, Greensville? Was that the one where you were in the four-way with Andy Dalton and
that was in
Dave and Andromeda?
That was in what was that?
That was Greenville, wasn't it? Because Pierce
Gainesville.
Gainesville.
Yep.
Because Pierce defended the title against none other than Charlie Haas.
Yep.
And then a couple of months later, Charlie Haas said that the NWA didn't exist and then blocked me on Twitter.
Yeah, well.
It's not the first time I've been blocked on Twitter. It won't be the last time either.
Well, it was more than a couple of months. It was about 5.
5 months or 5 years?
5 months.
Well, the fact that he was on our podcast putting over how great the NWA was, and then all of a sudden for him to say that it didn't exist and it was a nothing thing, it was always a head scratcher to me. I think that was more heat with Ken Taylor than anything else.
No, it was when they stripped Sheik of the world title. So they stripped Sheik of the world title, and he and Shelton Benjamin were in ROH, and they either were the ROH Tag Team Champions or were about to become the ROH Tag Team Champions. So, and there was no doubt at that time ROH was a better known company than NWA or whatever.
For sure.
And so when it was brought up or whatever, he was just kind of like, NWA, I didn't even know they ran anymore. I didn't know they existed anymore. So, I mean, it was a cheap shot because he thought he was somewhere better.
And your boy Jay isn't going to let people defame the NWA like that. No.
Nope.
So guess who ended up wrestling for the NWA again later, by the way?
Did Haas end up coming back later?
Yeah, because he was wrestling for Dave Fuller's promotion when they were part of the NWA.
Oh, that's right.
He challenged Jack Stane at the Parade of Champions.
Oh, that's
the WrestleMania
right.
card. My gosh, Jay, have you forgotten everything we have taught you?
No, I blacked out a lot of that Tharp era, the same way you blocked out the WCW post Vince Russo era. Some of that stuff, I love Jack Stane, and, going back and watching some of his matches, he's a great competitor, great in-ring wrestler, but I missed the majority of his run with the NWA because I was kind of abstaining. I'd see what they were doing in New Japan, but I wasn't really going out and looking for what he was doing just because I had such a sour taste in my mouth with Bruce Tharp. I didn't like the way they treated my friend Adam Pearce. I didn't like the way they treated my friend Dave Marquez. And I didn't like the way they treated my friend Kevin Douglas, the modern day hero. And I know Kev ended up working with them again a couple more times, but I never really appreciated the way that all went down either.
Well, remember, they were the ones that blackballed me for calling out the Ricky Morton title change as BS.
Yeah.
So they were the ones that put me on the stand so they could get my testimony. And then as soon as they got that out of me, the first thing they're thinking about is ways they can get the title off of me. So, they were the ones when I needed somebody to have my back, stripped me of my title, and basically didn't call me again until they needed me to go do jobs, to the same people I was beating the year before.
And just real quick, Ron asked in the forum, in the chat, who did I like better, Tim Storm or Jack Stane? I'll be honest, Tim Storm did not move the needle for me until the 10 Pounds of Gold series, and by that point, everybody fell in love with Tim Storm. The dude was everyone's favorite, because you can't not like Tim Storm. But personally, I've met Jack Stane, and he's always been nothing but kind to me. I've talked to him offline quite a bit. He's been on the podcast. I'm a Jack Stane guy. During their feud, I thought Jack Stane was the dynamic one. I thought he was the bullet going to the top. So I really was a big Jack Stane guy. But like I said, I kind of fell off after a little while there. But let's get to. I know Kevin really wanted to talk about some of the talents within the NWA. We were going to kind of analyze them and say what we like about some of the talents and tell you why Kevin's right and everyone else is wrong. Just kidding, we don't say that here. But that's DK's
DK
line.
says that all. DK says that all the time.
That's DK's line.
Right. All the time. Kevin's wrong, I'm right.
But let's, there obviously there's been some a direction change within the NWA. Going towards the 73rd, we know that we're going to get Nick Aldis to defend against Trevor Murdoch. Murdoch actually has put his career on the line, which, that kind of foreshadows what's going to happen, isn't it? And then we also have, at that pay-per-view, we'll also have a returning Jinx.
Has he officially?
What's that?
Has he officially?
Yes. During the race to the chase, they included the footage from Charlotte, which was kind of cool, where you see Aldis literally just roll up Trevor Murdoch and pin him cleanly in the ring. And Murdoch, this is before they announced the winners of the Champion Series, but he said that he would put his career on the line to get to get Nick Aldis to agree to the match. Now, I don't feel like that needed to be done considering the whole Champion Series, but nevertheless, that's what we have. So Kev, why don't you take us in this direction a little bit? Or DK, did you want to respond to that?
Look, we know I'm not the biggest fan of how NWA books some things, and I think that's just another example of complexity that's not needed.
Right.
In that, he's getting this title match according to the NWA because he's cashing in on being part of the team that's winning, So he doesn't have to put his career on the line, because the idea was, I'm putting my career on the line if that's what it takes to get you back in the ring for another title shot. So, you know, for me, it's just a little unnecessary, unneeded, stupid. Yeah, stupid. One word, I think.
Maybe I can kind of give my direction in this, because I agree with both you guys that it may not have really been necessary, but like, how many, what was the, you know, think of the great matches that have happened in history. How many of those matches actually needed a stipulation to make them great? Usually it was just one great wrestler against another great wrestler, and they had a great wrestling match. I mean, what the Savage versus Steamboat match at WrestleMania 3, yeah, it was for a title, but it was for a title, but like, that was it. It was just a wrestling match for a title. And, you know, I mean, you can go to Ricky Steamboat, back to Steamboat again, and Ric Flair. I mean, they didn't have to have all you had to do was say Steamboat versus Flair. So I just think it's just, you don't always have to have, in DK, the term you're looking for is it's gimmickry. It's just gimmickry.
Gimmickry, there.
Too much.
You're right.
Too much gimmickry. It's okay to have just a wrestling match between two really good wrestlers, and then the winner is the champion, and there's your story. For a heavyweight championship, if your wrestlers are good enough, that's all you really need. So there we go.
So Kevin, why don't you kind of lead us a little bit, and let's talk about some of the talents, and you give us your take, and then we'll give you our takes.
Well, you know, I think that going into the next series of Power, we might see a little bit of a talent overhaul. I might be wrong, but typically we do see a talent overhaul, and for the most case, it's been for the better. But I just kind of wanted to give this is a show full of opinions. Give my 2 cents about who I think the cream of the crop really is, regardless of who's holding the title, who the NWA thinks is their top people, and who actually really is. And you guys have talked to me off air about this, that, you know, I generally judge wrestlers on 3 major categories. One would be their work rate in the ring. If you want to think about great workers, like what does that look like? You're probably looking at like Rey Mysterio, who just, I don't think I've ever seen him do anything wrong in the ring. I mean, everything he does is great, and it's perfect, and it makes sense, and it's believable. When was the last time you saw Rey Mysterio do a body slam or a suplex? You know, many little guys do those moves, and they really shouldn't be doing them. Rey always does moves that make sense, and that's part of being. And of course, his execution is incredible. When you think of talking, which I think is the other major thing, I mean, of course, the first people I go to think about would probably be Steve Austin. The Rock would be another great microphone. Chris Jericho. You know, these are people that can just cut promos that you'll never forget. Tommaso Ciampa is one of my favorite in the modern day.
Real quick, Kev, yeah. I gotta ask, what do you think of Triple H as a promo guy? Because he's somebody who is always in the mix, but I never really thought he was a great promo guy. What is your take? Sorry, I know we're derailing the conversation.
No, you're fine. He wasn't great, but he wasn't bad.
No.
He wasn't like a liability on the microphone. He could convey a message, and his microphone prowess matched his character prowess. So I think, you know, for him, and I also think, let's be fair here, Triple H in DX, before he became the world champ, Triple H was golden on the microphone.
That's good.
So I think a lot of it has to do with the character he was putting on. That this goes back to being a good worker, is knowing who you are and what your character is, and you don't want to get too far outside of it. So I think for him to go overly dramatic and be overly dynamic, you know, have too many catchphrases, really took away from kind of that Herculean, Conan, you know, kind of character that he would portray. So Triple H, to me, if you're going to say, well, what was his strength? Obviously his look, and he made his money off that. And again, you know, that's a good segue. In third category, I would put it, put on there would be look. You know, I say work rate, microphone skills, and look. And you know, I think when I'm watching the show, these are the things I'm looking at, the things that I want to see. Who's in shape? You know, are the promo segments, you know, good content, and are they exciting? I bored DK so much he left.
Oh, I'm still here.
Now you left.
And then finally, you know, can they get it done in the ring? So without further ado, like I guess to start off, and I want to hear you guys' opinions on this, and the guys in the chat and girls. I think I'm gonna name like three guys, the top three guys that I think in each kind of specific category. In terms of work rate, one guy that I had to really think hard about, that I think might be a little surprising, but again, number one, it shows that maybe the NWA is lacking in this area on one end, but also two, I think it shows how much of an overachiever he is in this category. And I would say Trevor Murdoch is one of the top three workers in the ring, because I'm not a big fan of his bulldog off the top, but other than that, his moveset is really fits him. It makes sense. All his moves are in there. All his moves are solid and like, bam. And everything looks legitimate. So I think Trevor Murdoch would probably be one of the first people that comes to mind. The other guy that comes to mind, which you guys are going to be not shocked at all, Thomas Latimer. I mean, shocked. Big shock. But I mean, the guy can really put a match together, and the way he fills dead areas of a match, and the way he kind of ties transitions, like segments of the match together, the way he kills kind of what we call dead time, his selling, ring positioning, I mean, the believability. I mean, when has Thomas Latimer ever thrown a move that you didn't believe?
That's true.
I mean, that's talent, man. And then again, in no specific order, do we have a car? We have a truck backing up, or? But anyway, so, and I would say the third person on this, I'm gonna have to go with, in terms of, I'm gonna say four people. The third person I would say is Pope. He might be a tick below these other two guys, but I definitely think the third would be Pope. And then in the women, I think Lady Frost is the best worker they've got now that Thunder Rosa's gone. And I know Kaylee Ray might have something to say about that, but those are my top four.
So I actually I just posted on the YouTube chat that survey of those talents. So it should pop up here in a minute. For those of you who are in the live stream chat, please vote for who your favorite Kevin work rate guy is, and gal, because you can include Lady Frost. And we'll get to those results in a minute, but let's talk about that, right? Because Kevin, after months and months of you talking about how great Tom Latimer is, I have been paying attention a lot. In fact, I've paid attention to all four of these because I've said it multiple times on this show. The Pope has been one of my favorite parts of the National Wrestling Alliance since they've come back. I think Elijah Burke single-handedly carried the television championship, that whole division, for the last two seasons, made the title mean something, was able to put that belt over. I mean, remember, the last time we saw that title was on Zicky Dice, and Pope made that title seem a lot more legit, and a lot of us kind of even thought that the Pope was going to be the next challenger for the 10 pounds of gold. His promos have always been money. Every time he comes out there, you think he's going to do some Dustyisms. His in-ring ability, I've never seen him have a flub in a match. Now, he's been in the ring with some lesser talents, but has still always managed to pull out a good match. And that's even with Tyrus. He's been able to have good matches with Tyrus. So There's something to be said about his ability to work in the ring. Of course, he could sell you on it. Now, he does wear a T-shirt, which I know is not a T-shirt, but a top covering, which I know is kind of frowned upon, especially when it comes to body guys like yourself, Kev. But I think he has a great look, and his physical ability in the ring, like, you don't see him get blown up. You don't see, and again, that's maybe a byproduct of only having 6 minutes and 5 seconds in a match. But it just feels like he's one of those guys who really does bring a lot to the table. DK, do you have anything you want to add on the Pope or anyone else?
I mean, I think Kevin made some good choices. I guess if I were to add somebody in there in no particular order, I might actually put in Nick Aldis, because I do think Aldis is a good worker. The problems I've had with Aldis has been overexposure. And some of his indie matches, they're kind of all the same. But, you know, his actual matches that he's had here in the NWA and on the pay-per-views, and my voice is going, have been good. I enjoy Nick Aldis. I like to watch Nick Aldis. And to me, one of the things I've liked about Nick Aldis as a world champion is that he looks like a world champion. He carries himself as a world champion. And so, but I think in the ring he's good. I enjoy him and appreciate him.
Give me just a second. You guys keep talking. I just got to fix something real quick. Excuse me.
And so I like that Kevin brought up Trevor Murdoch, because, you know, he's his own style. He's his different look. But when it actually comes to being able to work in the ring, you know, he's certainly one of the top guys there in the show. I don't know, Kevin, what do you think about Nick Aldis? Do you think he's a good worker, or?
So I left him off the list on purpose to make a point, to prove a point that I've seen. He is good when he wants to be, but I've seen him have too many lazy matches. To Trevor Murdoch match that we were talking about with the roll-up. Some of the tag matches that they've had with him, some of his singles matches that he's had, it just, to me, has the element of mailing it in, as we'd say. You know, it just, his effort level, I think, is what I expect more out of. And so for me to say, man, I remember Nick Aldis has had one good match in the last year, which was the one against Murdoch at the last pay-per-view. To me, I just had to leave him off the list because I just don't. It's just, he's not his effort. Now, one guy I want to put on there for honorable mention, and it shouldn't raise any eyebrows because when you really think about it, it's actually kind of obvious. And I didn't mean to leave him off this, but that would be Aaron Stevens, who I had no idea I would be saying this about. But when it comes to just getting in there, being believable, and his moves having impact, wrestling, when he's a heel, putting heat on the baby face. I mean, just as a whole, I think he deserves a little bit of an honorable mention. I don't think he's better than the guys that we've mentioned, but I would say, including probably Aldis. But I also would like to say that he's one that's was a pleasant surprise to me because I didn't expect him to be that good.
Yeah, I think that goes for me as well. I always knew he had the ability to get over.
Mm-hmm.
I could remember him in WWE and, you know, kind of doing his thing. And the person I remember talking the most about it was Miz, who was, after he was let go, you know, Miz said, he goes, a lot of people don't realize that most of what he did that got himself over was stuff that he came up with that he did. When he started mimicking what Miz was doing in the ring and stuff like that, nobody told him to do that. He was doing it on his own. And so he's a different type of worker
mm-hmm.
that, you know, you wouldn't put in a top work rate guy list necessarily, but he's very good at the type of work he does.
Yeah. And somebody that unfortunately is not on the list because she's not with us, who I would say was the best worker they had, and that was Thunder Rosa.
No doubt about it.
Most definitely.
No doubt. Jay, so just to fill you in if you didn't hear, you know, DK brought up Nick Aldis. And
Right.
I said I left him off the list intentionally because I've only seen him really give a full-out effort one time in the last year, and that was the Trevor Murdoch match at the pay-per-view. Can you hear me?
You're really sounding like a robot right now.
Oh, sorry, guys. Let me get off of this Bluetooth here. All right. Is that any better?
Oh yeah, a lot better.
Okay. No, so I left Nick Aldis off there on purpose because I've only seen one good match from him in a year. And it was against Trevor Murdoch, the last pay-per-view, and I don't know how long ago that was. The rest of the matches, he just nails it in. And like we said about that Trevor Murdoch match, that was a lazy match, man. That's not a world champion wrestling. And you can't tell me that Ric Flair ever would have went out there and had a match like that. So as far as I'm concerned, the expectations don't match. The effort level doesn't match the expectations with Nick Aldis. And my honorable mention was Aaron Stevens, who's been a pleasant surprise in his ability to work. I
would say this about Nick Aldis is that he still looks like $1 million, right? I mean, he's a little bit more, I think the expression is swollen than he used to be, where he used to be a lot more cut and a lot more defined. Where I'm struggling to find him as a believable champion, as Ric Flair could go out there and have a Broadway with just about anybody, and he could go 60 minutes in a ring and look amazing doing it. I don't know that Nick Aldis can go more than 10 minutes. And every match that I've seen him in an NWA ring or outside of an NWA ring, he's tired. He gets blown up in the first few minutes of the match, and then we get a bunch of rest holds. And Kevin, I'm no wrestler. I've never stepped in a professional wrestling ring before. I wrestled in high school, 2-minute rounds, and it was hard. It was extremely hard. And I was gassed every time that I wrestled. And I ran for days, and I mean miles and miles and miles, to try to build up my wind. And it never got to where it needed to be for me to be successful. And I could only imagine at age 36, 35, however old Nick Aldis is, getting in that ring and having that commitment to your cardio to go more than 10 minutes, more than 20 minutes is not an easy task. But at the same time, we're not here to make excuses. We're here to talk about who is clearly the best. And when you can see a match with Tom Latimer or a match with, the Pope or a match with Lady Frost, and they don't look completely winded or blown up, after the first 3 or 4 minutes of the match, that tells you something. And it's not like Nick Aldis is the Ultimate Warrior who's running down to the ring, shaking the ropes, going crazy. I mean, he's very methodical the way that he moves. He's not running around crazy. He conserves his energy. But the fact that he gets blown up as quickly as he does, and that Charlotte match, I'm going to tell you right now, if that's what they bring to the 73rd anniversary, if we see that Nick Aldis and that Trevor Murdoch at that pay-per-view, that's going to be the worst, almost the F-word match I've ever seen. Because in Charlotte, it was a joke. If I would have been in that show, I would have asked for a refund. It was awful. And people who are paying, $30 for the pay-per-view or paying, $100 to sit ringside, if that's what they bring to the table, I would be very disappointed in both men. Sorry. I have to get off my horse.
No, you're good. And I think valid point. And again, I just think we have higher expectations for someone like him. And before I segue us into the next portion, I want to say this too, is that when that's something you have to notice as a wrestler that's happening. And what you have to do is you have to change the pace that you wrestle at. And again, no one knows that but you. And the only time people know that you're wrestling outside of your kind of your pace is when you're blown up. But when you're not blown up, they don't know that because you're not blown up. You're doing moves crisply, you're selling, everything's made, it looks good. And again, I just think this is just a self-awareness thing that maybe, he needs to take inventory of what's going on and just kind of make the right adjustments, because I think he has the ability to be the best worker in the NWA, maybe sans Tom Latimer. I don't think he could be better than Tom, but he could definitely be, he should be doing better. And to segue into the next portion that I would say is microphone skills, and to be fair, Nick Aldis is one of the best people on the microphone, hands down, in the NWA. So I can't have this conversation and leave him off the list, even with DK probably agreeing that he's overexposed. We see him on the mic too much. But when he's on the mic, I mean, he's cut some of the best promos in NWA Power of anybody, minus who we probably all will agree with that might be the best guy on the microphone in the company, would be the Pope. So I'm gonna throw those out there. As far as females on the microphone, it's kind of a wash. I feel like Camille has improved a lot on the microphone, but I don't feel like they've given, Melina's been the one that gets the most mic time. But if you're going to say who's the best on the microphone, it's going to be a tie between Mae Valentine and Taryn Terrell.
Taryn Terrell, leaps and bounds.
Right, because Taryn Terrell in terms of in-ring competitors and Mae Valentine in terms of just her awareness of what she's actually saying. And the things that she says make sense. And she's not out there like just blah, 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 just saying stuff. She takes time to articulate the things that she's saying. And so I think that in terms of that, those are my favorite. When I see those people come up to the microphone, I get pretty excited. I find it interesting that so far, 2 for 2, we haven't also brought up the national champion on this. Aaron Stevens is another one that I actually look forward to when he gets on a microphone. So again, hats off to him. I can't leave him out of this conversation. And if there's somebody, as I'm thinking about it, I mean, Tyrus is pretty good on the microphone himself, and as long as he keeps Austin Idol off the mic, it almost does me a favor. But no, I really enjoy for the most part, I've really enjoyed Tyrus's work on the microphone. So those would be the people I would throw in there. DK, did I leave anybody out?
Yeah, honestly, I don't think so. I think you nailed it pretty well. This is probably where I would have left Nick Aldis out on principle, because while he's one of arguably the second best on the mic and thing, I get tired of his back and forth with Joe Galley. I get tired of he talks too much. I mean, just in general. Now, when he's giving a promo on an opponent or whatever, he's you can't argue he's one of the best out there. But in my view, he just talks too much times, and he blabbers on about things that he just probably shouldn't. And Pope is simply the best one they have, and probably by a mile, maybe two. I cannot help but get excited when he talks. I can't help but feel, still a New Day thing. Feel the power,
Goosebumps.
Yeah, he just gets me excited, and I yell at my screen and, tell them to kick their ass and everything like that. It's just, I just so enjoy Pope. And someone please put the world title on him. Please, 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 please. And
I can agree with that.
And so it's just, he's just so good. Aaron Stevens, he's a rare thing that when he's in character, he is probably better than most people who are being themselves. When he was working with Question Mark and all that, it was just so good when he talked. He just,
it was so
I mean,
good.
he's the type that can talk you into a building. Like he and Pope, they can talk you into a building. After they're done, I'm taking my wallet out and I'm going, here's my cash. Just Somebody take it. I want to watch the match.
Give me a T-shirt while you're at it.
Yeah, and give me a T-shirt and an autographed picture. And, he's just that good. Now, that being said, I think on the women's side, Taryn Terrell as talent, although she hasn't really been wrestling, but I guess she's taken more of a manager type role or something. But the commitment, teach me to take medications. The commitment she has to the character that she's going is just, exciting and fun, and I just so enjoy her when she comes out to talk, and whatever. It's just, she's annoying, but she's annoying in a good way. She's annoying in the way that she should be, and she's just fun. And Kevin brought up May, and I don't know if English is her first language or her second language. Honestly, don't.
Portuguese.
Yeah, so I think that's what helps her, is because I think she's very deliberate, because she's still having to think about what she has to say. And in the early days, that was kind of off-putting, because she kind of was slow and rambled and, whatever. Now she's gotten to where I think she's comfortable talking, but she still has that very deliberate need to, to find the right words. And it's been a great benefit for her.
Because
she's the one I flip-flopped on. I did not like her at first. Truly enjoy her today.
What's funny is, who saw this with her character coming from her debut? So far from it. And like I said, she has come a long way. And I think you're right, Devin. She actually thinks before she talks. What a thought. Wow. Anyway, Jay, got anything you want to throw in?
Yeah, just looking at this show, Power, and, there's been a lot of things that have been problematic since its return. It definitely lost a lot of promo ability from where it was on episode 1 to where it is now. That first season of NWA Power, in the promo department, you had Nick Aldis, who, of course, was in a class of his own, but you still had James Storm, Tim Storm, Colt Cabana, Ricky Starks, to a lesser extent, Zicky Dice, Eddie Kingston. Tom was starting to come into his own. And there was a lot of this, promo ability.
Jay.
Huh?
You're missing someone.
Allison Kay, Thunder Rosa.
No. Come on.
Eli
Stevens.
Drake, baby.
Oh, yeah.
There we go, Eli.
Of course. I was going to get there. But you had these murder row of promos and just really, really solid promos. And the way that we talk about the Pope right now is the way that I used to think about Eli Drake, and just thinking those promos, if that match ever happened between him and Aldis, would just have been killer. On those promos alone, you would have sold me a ticket just on the promos. And I really feel like that's something that the NWA kind of lost on this new season. Now, yeah, Tyrus could talk, and Tyrus is actually pretty entertaining to me. I don't love Tyrus. I don't think he's great in the ring, but his promo work is pretty solid. You can't deny that. I think my favorite person on the mic right now is Taryn Terrell, because she plays the role very, very well. And I don't care if they put her back in the ring. I think she should be a manager, and perhaps maybe even create a stable, and not just manage Genocide, which I think she should, because I think they could be a very good 1-2 punch. You've got someone in the ring who's a power wrestler. She doesn't need to cut promos, because she can have Taryn Terrell do that for her. She can focus on the wrestling, and Taryn can focus on the talking. But her managing like another set of wrestlers, maybe The End, maybe War Kings, or maybe somebody like Slice Boogie. I don't really know. I don't really care. I just think she is a huge asset to the company, and probably the best talker there that wasn't there in the first few seasons. With that being
really
said,
anybody who can't talk, she should manage.
But that's half the roster.
On the heel side. On the heel side, at least.
Yeah.
we're talking more upper and upper mid card, but you know, she's on a managing thing should be like a modern Paulie Dangerously or, you know, Jim Cornette or Bobby Heenan, you know, where you take people who maybe couldn't talk, although Bobby Heenan managed Nick Bockwinkel, who was one of the best. And but you know, you take people who, you know, can't necessarily talk, and you give them the instrument to do the talking.
Agreed. And so, you know, just to kind of move us along, I want to just segue into the last category, and that's going to be look. And to me, nobody comes close to Camille in look. Nobody. She's the size, the physique, the gear, the prowess, everything about her look to me is she might have the best look in all of women's wrestling in terms of just pure, you know, the whole package, sort of the size, the look, the prowess that she has. I mean, I'm trying to think like what female wrestler out there like really has the package of conditioning, physique. You know, she's still an attractive female.
Even on the roster, you're missing the most contradictory person to this. What you're saying, Lady Frost is by far has the best look, the best gear, the best in-ring wrestling ability. She blows Camille out of the water. And I'm not saying she's a better wrestler than Camille, and I'm not saying she should have Camille's spot, but I'm saying Lady Frost, she is your total package. She hasn't cut the promo that I need her to cut. She hasn't like really been great on the mic, but in every other aspect of the character, you know, the over-the-top cockiness, the over-the-top high-flying wrestling moves, the fact that she was pulling up Kenzie Page when she thought she had her beat. There was no better heel on the roster for the women than Lady Frost, and that includes Camille. Camille's a badass, and we all know she's badass. Lady Frost is deadly. We don't know how deadly she is until she gets more opportunity in the ring, but the look, the style, her in-ring prowess, I say she's far and away better than where we are with Camille.
Well, and I mean, I think she was going to be on the list as well. I was actually going to bring her up on this.
Sorry.
Because, no, it's fine, because I couldn't agree with you more that she has one of the best looks in the NWA, and like I ranked her at the beginning as, in women, I think she's far and away the best worker they have. I think maybe Genocide and then Sky Blue might be the next two, you know, but I think she's separated herself from them for sure. And again, but what I'm talking about with look is Andre the Giant wasn't pretty.
No.
Andre the Giant didn't have a great body. Andre the Giant was huge. When he walked in a room, you're like, whoa. And the statement that Camille made on AEW by dwarfing one of their wrestlers, any of them, but she would dwarf any of them. To me, size is part of the look. It's not just, and that's where I think she separates herself from Lady Frost, is that standing face to face, Lady Frost immediately becomes the underdog because of the size factor, and that's actually the separating factor to me from Camille and maybe the rest of the people on the list. Now, I'm going to give an honorable mention to Sky Blue just because I think she has a great look. I think that's a big reason why she gets the airtime that she does. And again, obviously Lady Frost has got, like you said, the total package. I'd like to see how she is on the microphone, just to be fair, because we don't have a really big enough sampling to gauge that. And of course, you know who I'm going to bring up from the men's side of things. The guy with the best look in the men's side is Thomas Latimer. He's the only one in the men's side I'm actually gonna put on here. All the rest of them are going to be females because the next person is Taryn Terrell. And again, it's I'm not trying to knock anybody, but I'm also saying, like, when it comes to this part of the show, I mean, I think the women have far taken it more seriously and are exceeding. The other one might be Crimson, because great gear, great hair, great body. I think I couldn't leave him off this list. I couldn't leave him off. I love Jax, but I can't put him in the upper echelon. I don't think he has a bad look. I don't think his gear's bad. I just think physique-wise, for his character, I think he's downsized a lot in his physique, or at least it looks that way. And I just don't think it's a good look for him. I think that a powerhouse guy should have a certain prowess. And again, if you put him in the ring with some of these other big boys, he kind of doesn't carry that same look anymore. And that's not knocking Jax Dane, but again, not everybody's going to make the list. I don't want to criticize him really as much as I just want to say top of the heap. I mean, I think when you're talking about male wrestlers, you've got and again, I would have to say these guys, besides Thomas Latimer, fall below all the women I mentioned. But I mean, in men, you definitely have obviously Thomas Latimer. You definitely have Nick Aldis, who I feel like has slipped a lot physically, just in his look, not his gear, not his in-ring attire, not his face and all that. That all matters, not in his tan, but just his body. And I mean, the concept, the term we would use would be his conditioning, is lacking. And not conditioning in his cardio, his conditioning in terms of his body fat. And that's important for his character. It may not be important for Trevor Murdoch, but it's important for Nick Aldis' character. And so I just think that, a lot of the men, guys, there's just a lot of the guys that just aren't, besides I would say Crimson and Thomas Latimer, the rest of the guys' looks are not big league, in that big league category as it stands right now. And again, I don't mean to slight anybody. I'm just saying the women I've mentioned, Camille, Lady Frost, Taryn Terrell, I think they far exceed. There's a definite separation between them and the rest. But that's that's what I got.
DK, what do you think of what Kevin said? Like, I mean, in terms of appearance, like, what are your thoughts? Because I have some of my own, but I want to hear yours before I go.
Well, I'm going to be a little bit different. Maybe different criteria. On the women's side, I'd have to go with Camille, because she's just intimidating looking. I mean, Frost has got a good look, but I don't find her intimidating, when she's in the ring with somebody. Probably if you're taking gear and everything into account, the next person I'd say on the female line would actually be kind of Kylie Ray, who's kind of got that, that kind of cutesy look.
Sure.
In Ring of Honor, the one that I've really kind of fallen for is
Quinn McKay.
Who's kind of a lovable dork. It's kind of her character, lovable dork.
That's kind of.
And there's something about Kylie. That is true, and so it's just, like just looking at her, there's something like it's not an intimidating look, but it's a fun look, and you look like you're going to get a fun match when she's in the ring. Jay's just gotten smarter. Now, on the, and, Taryn Terrell. Yeah. Well,
I mean, it matters, right? It matters.
Of course it matters.
I mean, it counts.
I think that's the difference between like somebody like Camille and somebody like Genocide. I mean, Genocide looks intimidating, but I don't know if it's her face paint or she's not overly toned. She's big, but she's not overly toned. And it's like, whereas Camille has a very exotic look to her. Mm-hmm. And it matters. I mean, look, with the guys, it matters. There are two groups that are currently missing from wrestling. One group is the teen to early 20 group. You don't see a lot of them in the crowd, and you certainly don't see the females in the crowd from that you used to see. You come to Dallas when the Von Erichs were kings, and 40% of the crowd were females trying to jump them, and you just don't have that anymore. So yeah, physical look is important.
By the
now,
way,
on the men's,
Kevin used to get that when he came out here. Just saying.
Oh, really? So anyway, I guess what I was saying is that Taryn Terrell, the fact that she is somewhat hot is important. On the guy side, I would have to go with Latimer just as far as he's deceptive in how big he is. I think if you just see him standing by himself, you don't think he's that big of a guy. But then when he is in the ring with people like Jack Stane, Crimson, Nick Aldis, and Nick Aldis is around 250 to 260, according to the scale pictures he posts sometimes. So, I mean, he's a pretty big guy. And, you just see Latimer's kind of a big guy. He's well-muscled. He's got the hair. He's got the beard. He's got the look. You see where women would, kind of fawn over him and things like that. But now I'm going to jump in other direction. And this is where you guys are going to think I'm nuts.
Maybe.
I would actually put Trevor Murdoch on the list.
He was on
and the reason
he was on my radar. Like, he wasn't off the radar. He's in the upper echelon.
And the reason I'm going to say Trevor Murdoch is while he doesn't have a Dusty Rhodes body.
No.
But he doesn't have a Thomas Latimer body either, or even anywhere close to it. But he has the look of a guy that if he was in a bar, you would say to yourself, if things go bad, I want him on my side. So whatever, if this bar breaks down into a fight, whoever he's fighting, whatever, that's what I want, because he's gonna, he's the one that I'm gonna want to see. Because I think he'd probably whoop anybody in the bar's ass. And he looks like a legit tough guy who would simply beat the crap out of you if you, disrespected him or somebody he was with. And that counts. So Jay, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, you guys really hit some good ones, but like I said, for me, part of what makes wrestling fun for me is when you suspend your belief, right? And oftentimes we even consider wrestlers as like real life superheroes. I mean, geez, Kev, you were the personification of a real life superhero while you were wrestling. They called you the modern day hero, for crying out loud. You came to the ring looking like you were right out of a comic book. And I think, to me, when it comes to wrestling, over the generations, I've always looked at wrestlers kind of like that. Like, are they over the top with their look? Are they bigger than life? Can you get sucked into the fantasy of not only the wrestling, but like the bigger than life thing? So, not that Camille is a common looking female. Not that Tom Latimer is a common looking male. They're both super athletes, right? They're both phenomenal looking athletes. But I don't think that anybody in the business, I don't think there's anybody in the NWA who looks more like the character, like the role that they're playing, than Lady Frost. So hands down, she's my number one. The best look in the NWA. And it's not that I think she's the most attractive, but I think her look is beyond. She's got the best look in the NWA. And I would follow that up with Tom Latimer's number two. When I think of a pro wrestler, I think of Tom Latimer. When I think of anybody looking at the roster, you look at the like someone who could fit right in with the WWE. Tom Latimer could show up in the WWE, and I wouldn't bat an eye. It wouldn't look weird. It passes the sniff test. And with that being said, the same thing with his lady, Camille, the Brick House. She too looks like, boom, she could be in the WWE, and you wouldn't think twice about it. And you would think, wow, that chick looks like she fits right in, and you wouldn't even think twice about it. So those are my first three, and then I'd round it out with, again, Trevor Murdoch. Yeah, I know he's been in the WWE, so it's not hard to picture him, but he has that old school wrestling body. Not everybody in the 80s and 70s had that six-pack abs and the barrel chest and the 24-inch python's brother. There were a lot of guys that looked more like Trevor Murdoch than didn't. I mean, Dirty Dick Murdoch. There's a lot of guys that resembled Trevor Murdoch's body style in the world of professional wrestling than per se Tom Latimer, and I'm talking about in the olden days. And then we already said it, but Taryn Terrell I think has a great look too, especially she came out with those fairy wings the first pay-per-view, and it was just like, oh my god, what a great complete package. I could see her anywhere. I could see her in AEW. I could see her in the WWE. She is a wrestler, and I know that she's probably not going to wrestle very much for the NWA, whether it be she's has an injury or if they just would prefer to use her as a manager. I don't know, and honestly, I don't care. As long as they still use her in this capacity as like a manager, it adds to it, and I think that's what makes those four names, that's what makes them special. And that's not to take away from anyone else. My favorite guy on the roster is the Pope, and I don't think he's that far off. I know a lot of people like Adonis. I know, Kevin, why you don't like Adonis, but I mean, he looks like a grizzled wrestler. He's got the wrestle body. So it's like, and again, this is all subject to personal tastes and how you feel about wrestlers. So it could really go any way. But
it could, but how often do you see three guys like us with mostly varying opinions on so many levels on this show, and yet we have very little disagreement? We have a few exceptions here and there,
sure, but
most of the same people are on our list, are on each one of our lists, and trust me, for those watching, we don't agree with each other. We're one of the fun parts about this crew is that we're good enough friends that we can agree to disagree about stuff. And I think it's interesting that a lot of the same people landed on all of our lists. And, one really interesting fact about that is how many champions are on this list that we've spoken of. I mean, I know we brought up Nick Aldis, but most of our sentiments towards Nick Aldis was that the talent's there, but he's disappointing. I understand Tyrus is the TV champion, and no one would even rank him in the upper echelon in work rate, not even close. Maybe in look he might be above the pack, above average, but even that, he's overweight. And I just think when you look at that, the tag champions, we didn't bring up Kratos one time. And again, I'm just, and Chris Adonis, you said, yeah, you could mention him, but it's not like we're like fighting over how great of a talker, how great of a look, or how great of a worker he is. We're not talking, like, no one's fighting over that. And so again, I just think that it kind of goes to show that maybe there's a little lack of self-awareness of who your real money makers really are, and who's really driving the ship, or who should be driving the ship in terms of the wrestlers. I think Camille, probably of their champions, is the only one that I see that could go on and be a women's champion elsewhere. The rest of them, I don't see them having that capability. But I do see someone like Pope. I do see someone like Thomas Latimer as being someone who, look, I know we talk about Pope wearing a shirt, but that means nothing to me. It's not, wear a shirt. I mean, MVP wore a shirt for years and had some of the best gear of all time. And Undertaker never wrestled with his shirt on. So, I mean, you don't have to have a shirt, have your shirt off to be a good wrestler. I think if you're gonna not wear go out there without a shirt on, then the shirt you wear needs to look good. The gear package that you put together needs to look good. And so, I just think that these guys could translate to some of the more major companies. And the fact that they're kind of getting the Thunder Rosa treatment has me scratching my head.
Well,
they're getting Thunder Rosa, not Ricky Morton.
She's not Ricky Morton.
That's all I got tonight, guys. Thanks for entertaining the conversation, because I love talking about this stuff.
So that's going to do it for us now. We went way longer than I was expecting, and I personally have to get going. Real quick, Kev, if they want to follow you on social media, how can they do that?
Kevin Lee Frazier at Twitter. Kevin Lee Frazier, F-R-I-Z-I-E-R, just like on the screen right here. Kevin Lee Frazier. That's where you'll find me on Twitter, and on Instagram you can find my YouTube videos, Kevin Douglas 247, or you can Google Kevin Douglas Wrestling, or search in YouTube. You'll find plenty of matches on there.
DK, how can folks follow you on the socials?
If you want to follow me regarding wrestling, at DKMFWTX on Twitter. That's about the only one where I really dig into my wrestling things, and you got to see me follow the Olympics. Speaking of which, Gable Stevenson will be at SummerSlam.
They better just sign him right then and there. You can follow me at the Alliance Blog, and we're on all social media. That's Tumblr. We're TikTok. We're starting to put up some old promos and stuff.
Wait a minute, Tumblr still exists?
What's that?
Tumblr still exists?
Yeah, it still exists. It's basically just my Instagram account on Tumblr. But if you're on Tumblr, give us a follow. Then we're also on Twitter, Facebook. Of course, you're watching us on Twitch or on YouTube, and we do appreciate you doing that. If you prefer to listen to this podcast as opposed to watching it, we have options for you there as well, because you could go to Amazon, Apple, Spotify, or even Google, and just type in the Alliance Guys Podcast, and you'll find us right there, and you could listen to us talk NWA with you guys. That hashtag NWA fam. If you've enjoyed this show, please show your support by giving us a thumbs up. Liking this podcast helps us with that YouTube algorithm and helps more NWA fans see this content. And we could definitely use more subscriptions and thumbs ups and follows and likes. And if you want to monetarily support this podcast, like Terry McDermott has in the past, or James, or any one of you guys who've picked up a shirt in the past, you could do so. You get one of these shirts. I think DK might have one of those too. You get one of those shirts at our merch store. Also, we have the aforementioned Alliance TV title shirt that's available now, just $24, and that would be awesome too. But that's going to wrap it up for us. Guys, thank you so much for hanging out with Kevin, hanging out with DK and myself. Next week, we're going to give our pay-per-view predictions for both EMPOWERRR and the 73rd anniversary show. So this is going to be our big podcast where we're going to talk about the wrestling that's coming that weekend. We hope you guys will be here with us. We want to hear your predictions too. We'll put the forums up and everything, so we'll ask questions you guys can answer and give your comments as well. Until next time, make sure you eat your ham sandwiches, and we'll see you at the matches.